I've been writing. I started writing little plays for my friends when I was in third grade, and I wrote those for many, many years and enjoyed that, and wrote plays with other friends and applied for competitions and won fake cruises and all sorts of stuff. Weird stories that we won't get into. But when I think I really started to take writing seriously was when me and my oldest daughter and my now ex-husband were living together in a single room in a 2-bedroom apartment that my friend had with her sister. So there was 5 of us in this tiny apartment, and me and my ex-husband and my daughter were all crammed into one room. And it was definitely felt like I was trapped. I was absolutely trapped. I couldn't get out. Everything was just falling apart. Drama, drama, drama. But I always had this story in my brain, and I think it started as an escape to get out of that room. And every morning I'd wake up and I'd go out into the living room in the dark and I'd write. Sometimes I'd write for 30 minutes and sometimes I'd write for 45 minutes, but I wrote every single day before anyone else was awake, and it was just my time to get those words in and to experience this beautiful story that I was building. And slowly those words became a 130,000 word manuscript, and then years later those words became a whole different story that turned into a 10-book series. But that's, when I look at it, that's when it really started. That write every day escape, that habit, that world building, that's where it all started. So to be here 10 years later, after publishing, 17 years after that tiny little room, and be looking at my future and saying, yeah, I need to write every day and get back to that. It's a weird come full circle situation, but I'm kind of glad to be here. So I'm doing Nanowrimo this year. I've published my first book 11 years ago, actually this week. It's a little crazy. I started writing 17 years ago in that tiny little room, and I've never ever done Nanowrimo. And I'm not going to go into all the crazy about what it is and why it is and blah, 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 blah. There's a million videos about that, and maybe I'll do it in the future, but for right now, I could care less. We could find it elsewhere. I think what I want to share today is what impacts me as a writer and what has been so instrumental to my success as I've written and published and been a full-time author for 10 years. And that is simply just to write every day. Write every single day. It is one of those tips that seems so easy when you first put it on paper and you're like, yeah, I got this. I can find an hour, hour and a half every day, and I can write, and it's going to be great, and my story will just flow at my fingers, and it'll be magic, and everything will be wonderful. And I wish that that's exactly what would happen, but it's not going to happen that way. Even when I woke up early and wrote in that tiny, dark little living room, the words very rarely flowed. And sometimes I didn't get hardly any words at all, but I was up every morning and working on it. And I think that's the biggest thing, to write every day. And there's 2 big reasons why I promote that. Reason number 1 is that when you write every day, you stay in contact with your characters. So it's almost like those open strands of communication are all there. You always know where they're at in their story, what they're feeling, what their motivations are, all of these things that are so instrumental to building a good plot and building good characterization, character-driven plot, which is that's my thing. I love character-driven plot. And I think being in touch with those characters on such a deep level helps me to do that. Because even when I walk away from my keyboard, their stories are still in my mind. But the weird thing is that when I don't write every day, those stories start to fade. If I'm writing every day, everything is just very fresh in my mind. It's always there. I'm happy to go back to it. I might be cooking and suddenly I'm thinking about a character and what they're doing, and I'm solving plot issues and blah, 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 blah. But when I don't write every day, I lose contact with them. I don't know exactly where they are. I don't know exactly what their motivation is. And so when I go back 2 days, 3 days, a week later, I have to catch back up with them. I need to read the few chapters before. I need to read the few paragraphs before and figure out what's going on and get my mind back in that mode of writing and where the story is and all of that. So that takes time. And so if you only have an hour to write every day and you're writing every other day or every third day, having to reconnect with your characters, it just eats up some of that precious time that you have to write. Whereas if you find the time to write every day, that's those lines of communication, that creativity spark, it's already there. Now, that's not meaning you need to find an hour every day to sit down. I mean, I'm a single mom. I work full time. I've got craziness in my house constantly. I mean, I've got to go check on my dogs in a minute because they're too quiet. So I promise you that they found a toilet paper roll or gotten in the garbage or something. But even getting a half an hour or even 20 minutes in every day can make a huge impact on what you're writing. Not just by like staying connected, but by actual word count, which I know sounds really bizarre. But if you're writing for 20 minutes and all you get is 500 words, that still adds up over the course of a week or 2 weeks. So I fell into this many, many times where I look at my day, I'm like, I only have like 20 minutes to write, so I'm not even gonna bother. Not even gonna do it. And then guess what? The next day, I only have 20 minutes to write, so I'm not even gonna bother. I'm not even gonna do it. It's too much work today because I'd have to read stuff. And on that goes for a week. I've had it even go up to a month of just like me putting it off because I have all these other things that are pulling my time, which is totally valid. But if I had taken that 20 minutes that I did have and wrote and got those 500 words, by the end of those 20 days, I mean, that's still 10,000 words. It may not be as much as I would have gotten if I had that hour and a half, but that still puts me a heck of a lot further in my manuscript than I was by not writing at all. Plus, I'm more familiar with the characters. I'm still in line with the story. I'm building good writing habits. All of those are super duper beneficial. So we want to kind of do that. We want to build that habit. And I mean, I've never done Nanowrimo before, but looking at how it is and what it is, I really feel like that's one of the big things to do it. I mean, that's why I'm doing it. I went back to work this fall for the first time in 10 years. I've been a full-time author for 10 years, but I went back this year because sometimes sitting at home alone can get a little monotonous, and health insurance, also a big bonus. So I'm working full time and I need to rebuild that daily writing habit into my life while still working, which is really hard. And it also means I'm looking at a lot of 20-minute days. So I'm like trying to psych myself up to take advantage of those 20-minute days and follow this write every day rule, because it is important and they do add up, both because of how the word counts tend to snowball and because of staying in contact with your characters. That's such a huge, huge, huge thing. And having gone on the other side of it and spent so many weeks like not writing at all, and oh man, the regret, guys, the regret, it was huge. To get at the end of those 3 weeks and being like, if I had just written every day, I would almost be done with this book. And I wasn't anywhere close. It sucked. It just did. It was not my favorite. I still have mass regret because it is still on my brain. But I will tell you that in my many, many years of writing every day is really what has made or break my habit, my publishing schedule, my deadlines, all of that. And where Nanowrimo is focused so much on deadlines and that $15,000, ooh, I wish I had $15,000, 1,500 word goal. I mean, it's what it's made for. So embracing that and getting ready to do it. And I think the big thing about that I really want to impart upon everyone is that finding even 30 minutes a day to do that does impact positively. Because if you have an hour and a half one day and then you only have 20 minutes the next day, that can still kind of culminate into that word count. Whereas if you skip those days where you only have 15, 20 minutes, not only are you having to kind of get back into and get your brain back onto writing your story, but you're missing the word count you would have had otherwise. And it does add up. And I know that you can find 15, 20 minutes a day to write. I know you can. Think about how much time we spend scrolling through TikTok, especially at night when we're in bed. Like, just maybe go to bed 10 minutes later and write a little bit before you go, like, instead of just scrolling TikTok. Think about the time we spend scrolling TikTok on the toilet. I mean, do you really have to be in there for 20 minutes? I might be talking to my teenagers a little bit here, but, maybe don't take your phone in there. and just get your business done and spend that time after you're out writing. It's weird how that works, but I know that you can find the time. 10, 15, 20 minutes. It does add up. It truly, truly does. I promise you that. And I know that embracing that and building that habit isn't just going to help you succeed in NaNoWriMo. That's something that you can take throughout your entire writing career. I mean, it's something that I have taken throughout my entire writing career. And even though I haven't been the best at it, because I'm human and I make mistakes, and sometimes I'm just like, heck no, I don't want to write. I know that the times that I have followed this rule, not only have I produced books quicker, but I've also produced better books because I am more in contact with my story. So I know that was a little bit rambly, but I did really want to share that with you all because I know so many of us are in this NaNoWriMo path together this year, and I'm in it and you're in it, and I know we can succeed together. So set that goal. Let me know what your goal is in the comments. Are you going to try to write 15 minutes, 20 minutes? What are you going to move around to make those little bits of time or even those longer bits of time fit into your schedule? And let me know what you're writing, because we are, 3 days away? Oh my gosh, I'm not ready. And I want to know what you're writing. Short story, long story, fan fiction, nonfiction? Lay it on me. Let's hear about it. All right, happy writing, everyone, and get ready because NaNoWriMo is on its way.